Hello, everyone. Nice to see you. I am Anna from the StartSpace team here at State Library Victoria. Welcome to this session of the Future Founders Festival 2021, held in partnership with Study Melbourne and StartSpace. It's great to have you here, and I hope that you've been enjoying the previous sessions so far. We had a great workshop just then around building your MVP, and so it feels like a really good segue now from sort of building the basics of your business and finding that great market fit to finding a fit with your values and your purpose and your social alignment. How do you build a sustainable business that also fits with your personal ethics and has a social purpose to it? Well, we're going to find out more this afternoon. So welcome to Pursuing Your Purpose Through Entrepreneurship with Kim Lee Nguyen, founder of People of Purpose. Now, if you want to interact during the session, I'm sure many of you know by now, we've got the chat box just down below. You can make comments and interact with one another. And then there is an opportunity to ask questions to Kim as well toward the end of the session. But this is a practical masterclass, so I'm going to let Kim drive for the rest of the session. Kim, welcome, and over to you.
Hi everyone, thanks so much for having me, StartSpace and Study Melbourne. It's an absolute honour to be delivering this masterclass on pursuing your purpose through entrepreneurship today. I guess before we begin, I'd like to start by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people, the traditional custodians of the land which I am tuning on from in Naarm, Melbourne, as well as acknowledging any other First Nations people who are tuning in as well. I guess we'll kickstart this. Let me just screen share. So today's masterclass is on pursuing your purpose through entrepreneurship, and I'm Kim, and today's masterclass will involve, sorry, my screen's gone a bit frozen. Oh, there we go. So a bit about me. So I'm an innovator, entrepreneur, and lawyer. So that's how I'd like to describe myself in 3 words. And essentially, I love exploring crazy ideas with purpose, or exploring crazy ideas purposefully. And I run a social enterprise called People of Purpose. It's an early stage social enterprise, and we support young people and uni students by running programs to educate. We run also an employment initiative that's going to be launched very soon, and we'll also run events, and we're very focused on community building and creating access to the social impact space through events as well. So that's a bit about me, and today I will also be outlining what it will comprise of. So firstly, it will comprise of a story time with me where I'll be talking about my journey about pursuing my purpose and working towards a career in social impact and pursuing purpose-driven initiatives through entrepreneurship. And then I'll also next be talking about understanding what is purpose and how does purpose intersect with entrepreneurship. Next, I'll also be sharing frameworks about thinking about and tapping into your purpose. And then finally, I'll also be sharing opportunities to explore your purpose in entrepreneurship and beyond through resources, access to information, good books to listen to read, as well as doing a Q&A at the end. So firstly, I'll be sharing about my story. So my why. So where do I even begin with that? I guess my journey towards purpose began at a very young age. I was always passionate about human rights and social justice from a young age. And growing up in a family with migrants and refugees, Vietnamese refugees actually, my grandparents and my uncles and aunties came over to Australia as Vietnamese refugees during the 1970s to escape from the Vietnam War. And as a result of that, they've always instilled me with the belief and with the ideas and the mindset to give back to the community, to foster an attitude of gratitude and to support and do whatever I can to give back to the community, and whether it's through volunteering, whether it's through donating, whether it's through fundraising and getting involved in different aspects of society in general. So as a result of growing up as a migrant child or a child of migrant families, I've always had this very interesting and very blessed with this opportunity to have won the birth lottery of growing up in Australia, and also understanding that my place in the world is to give back and I will pursue my purpose through various different pathways. And I know for me, and I acknowledge that purpose is not a stagnant concept. It's a growing set of learning experiences and something that you will learn and grasp and develop and lean into along the way as well. It's an evolving process. So for me, I acknowledge that like I haven't got it all figured out, and I have no doubt that like, you know, I don't think I know anyone at my age who's got it all figured out, or anyone at different ages has got it all figured out either. So like it's a learning process, and we're all in it together to learn about different ways to pursue our purpose. So that's the whole like premise for this masterclass, as well as having a bit of an entrepreneurship lens towards it as well. So my why now, so where am I in my journey of purpose currently? So where I see my journey of purpose is through entrepreneurship currently. I see it as a way to, I see entrepreneurship as a very interesting mechanism, or an interesting approach to creating the change that I want to create on my own terms at the speed that I want, using the ideas, information, and support of people around me. And that's, for me, my purpose is defined as living life on my own terms, driving change in a way that's aligned with aligned with the Earth's needs, as well as receiving the support of those around me. So that's how I define pursuing my purpose. And I see entrepreneurship as a way to drive the change I want to create through leveraging innovation, creative ideas, and business as well, the tools of business. And then my next step is like trying to figure out my why moving forward. So where and how do I hope to progress in my journey of purpose in the future? And how I hope to progress in my journey of purpose is through like, you know, doing lots of reflecting on my past experiences, which was, you know, cultivated by my migrant and refugee background with my family. And then my why now like is to like reflect on like, you know, what sort of experiences I have developed along the way, as well as my journey as an entrepreneur in the social entrepreneurship space in Australia. And then entailing those two sort of those two aspects and those two pathways that will help me figure out my pathway moving forward as well. And a good resource for that is thinking about and reading into like Start With Why by Simon Sinek, the concept of Start With Why, where you start with the way you communicate is you start by communicating with your why first, and then how, and then what. So it's simply like it's called the golden circle framework. So why, like why are you doing what you're doing? How will you achieve what you wanted to achieve? And what is the product, or what is the business, or what is the startup idea that you have? So that's a very simple 3-step process to think about, whether it's your why or whether it's communicating your why to the external audience as well, in terms of marketing or startups, or even with your purpose. So I guess the next part is understanding what is purpose. And there's no one set definition for it. And I do encourage you to go out and think about the definition that mostly aligns with you and your values. But for me, purpose essentially means the reason for being. And I got this from the Ichigai framework, which is, so Ichigai means the reason for existing, or the reason for being. It's a Japanese word. So some questions I would encourage you to think about when reflecting on your why or your purpose, so to speak, is like similar to my story, is think about your past experiences. So what was your why then? So like, you know, what brought you to this earth? How have your past experiences shaped you into becoming the awesome human being you are today? And think about your childhood, think about your memories, think about, you know, high school, uni, or whatever experiences you've had, or whether it's traveling, or what are some experiences you've had that have resonated with you in the past? And then that brings you to your current why today. What is your why now? Why do you exist? Why do you think you are here on earth at this point in time? It can get a bit of existential. You might end up having a bit of an existential crisis along the way, but it's about you know, taking some time out to reflect and think about your reason for being, and then moving on from that, thinking about what role do you want to play while you live and while you exist on earth, or while you exist in your various hats that you wear as a conduit. So as someone who, you know, brings messages to other people, or harness their skills and talents and gifts to create change that they want to create? Is it a connector? Do you bring people together? Like, are you a community builder, or are you a catalyst? So that's another word for an entrepreneur, I would say. Like, are you like someone who's a bit of a self-starter, self-initiator, who likes to go out there and start projects or start different ideas to create change? And then next is what change, like moving forward from that, is what change do you want to create during your lifetime? So like think about, what sort of social or environmental, political, economic, or what kind of change do you want to create? How will you create it? With whom? For whom? And what? When and where? So those are some questions that you can think about in terms of your purpose, reflecting on your purpose now, and then conjuring up what is your purpose moving forward. And then next, there's another approach that you can think about when pursuing your purpose. So Ichigai is technically like a 3-step circle, but I've separated these 3 circles into 3 separate circles. So firstly, the first question to think about is, what are my passions? And the next question to think about is, what does the world need? And the third question to think about is, what can I be paid for? And to bring it back to the present, you can think about in your job or in your startup or in your, in your current role, whether it's at work or in volunteering or whatever role or hat you're wearing, are my talents and skills being maximized? So that's bringing it back to now. And then currently, are my talents and skills serving the world I want to see? And the third question to think about is, are my talents and skills being adequately recognized through a form of compensation that I need? So like, are your talents, skills, and gifts, is what you're contributing back to the world being recognized? Are you receiving a reciprocal or a mutually acceptable kind of outcome from being, from contributing your skills and talents, whether it's through like, physical recognition, such as money, or like some sort of compensation, or whether it's through, social credit, or like, a bit of a social recognition, or like publicity or something like that. So that's an interesting way to think about how can you pursue your purpose, and the 3 types of questions that you should think about. And then the next step, I've created a little worksheet. So moving forward from that, once you've had a chance to think about your purpose, it's also good to think about and write down like your mission statement. So what is the world you want to create? For example, the change that you want to invoke. And then the next thing that you can think about is your vision. What is the world you want to see? The change that you want to achieve for the ideal world that you want to see happening. And thirdly, what attitudes or like what values, qualities, or behaviors you want to demonstrate and uphold across all your activities. Mission, vision, and values are often used in the not-for-profit and the startup, and mostly not-for-profit and social impact space, from my understanding. But that's not to say that mission, vision, and values can't be applied everywhere, irrespective of what type of organization or what kind of discipline that you're trying to pursue as well. But I can see it being a very valuable set of behaviors or a framework to think about in moving forward for your own individual pursuit of your purpose through entrepreneurship. And it can be applied for the startup space as well. And then the next question is, what does entrepreneurship mean? So breaking it down simply, I really resonate with just a simple definition. So entrepreneurship means learning by doing, and that's my interpretation. Some people have other complex interpretations or different definitions of what does entrepreneurship mean. It can mean like, profit and generating X number of, revenue by X years, and it can get quite intricate and complex. But for me, I like to break it down simply by saying that entrepreneurship is learning by doing, and it's through there's different ways in which you can explore entrepreneurship, where it's exploring, experimenting, expressing, educating, entertaining, whilst earning an income. So that's how I resonate with the definition of entrepreneurship. And then to add on to that, a lens of having a lens. Oops, sorry, there's a bit of sound in the background. I didn't realize the picture had sound in it, so I'm not sure if you can hear that. Oops, let me go back. So sorry about the sound trouble, but essentially adding onto a lens of purposeful entrepreneurship is that it's essentially exploring, experimenting, expressing, educating, entertaining whilst earning an income with purpose. So once you've figured out your purpose, once you've figured out and filled in like the framework that I've provided to you and thought about those questions which I elucidated on, it's purposeful entrepreneurship is essentially doing all those activities, earning an income, and then having that deeper understanding of your why, of your mission, of your vision, of your values as well. So hopefully this is all making sense. And then the next slide I have is on additional resources. So for further information, you can check out People of Purpose. So People of Purpose is my early stage social enterprise that I mentioned earlier on. And we have programs that are capacity building for and like education about social impact and the skills that you need to get involved in the social impact space. We also have events, and we're always open up for collaboration opportunities. So please contact like me at hello@peopleofpurpose.co. And in terms of books and resources, some good books that you should think about are, for example, Starting with Why by Simon Sinek. So that was the framework that I mentioned earlier on, where he explains the golden circle: start with why, your inner core, how, and then what. And then another good book is What Should I Do with My Life by Poe Bronson. So it's a whole anthology of a short collection of stories from various people from in the startup space, in the corporate field, and the not-for-profit charity field, and activists, and all kinds of people from different backgrounds. And they share their stories and learnings about what it takes to pursue a meaningful and a fulfilling life. And then to get into contact with entrepreneurship and to also develop a better understanding of entrepreneurship. Say if you have a startup idea, or if you want to learn more about entrepreneurship, and I recommend you checking out like an accelerator program such as the program by YGAP. So YGAP First Gens, which is another hat that I wear in this space, which is supporting migrant and refugee entrepreneurs through developing an understanding of business, what that entails, and the support needed, as well as providing a bit of like catalytic funding, which is like small grants to take your idea off the ground and to trial out and test out new ideas as well. So I'll hand it over to Anna for question time. Yeah.
I'm just unmuting there. Hello, Kim. So there was a lot packed in there. There's some really fantastic tips that were coming up. And I absolutely love some of those books that you mentioned. Simon Sinek, if you haven't seen his talks, really helpful in terms of when you're thinking about your personal values and also brand positioning. So he's a bit of a classic there. But I hadn't come across that What Should I Do with My Life by Poe Bronson. So thank you for that tip. I'm going to go and have a look at that myself. So there was a lot in there that really struck a chord for me, and I have many questions. I love that you started, Kim, as well by saying, most of us don't have it all figured out. I definitely don't have it all figured out. And in building StartSpace here at State Library Victoria, it's something new. It's a whole new kind of service. It's free. It's there to support people, but we're working it out as we go as well. So it's an ongoing process, and there's always more to learn. So thank you so much, Kim, for that presentation of giving us some really constructive ways to think about that. We've got some questions now starting to come in from the audience. So if you are watching along and you can see that Slido box to the right of our video screen, then pop in some questions, and we've got a good amount of time to have a chat with Kim. So first question that's come through is, this is a good one. How do you keep motivated despite obstacles when things don't go to plan, or people can't really see the purpose and the vision that you have? I found a lot of purpose-driven startups really understand the problem they're solving from a very personal perspective. It's very values-driven. So how do you keep that motivation up if you can't see other people understanding what you're doing?
Yeah, that's a good question. Thanks for that, Anna. And thanks to whoever sent it through. I guess, so the question is, how do you pursue your purpose and maintain a sense of optimism during tough times? I guess it's always referring back to your inner core, your values, reflecting on your purpose as to like, why are you doing what you're doing? What motivated you to get there? Thinking back on your past experiences, thinking about all the memories, all the awesome like support or awesome interesting experiences that you've encountered along the way, and then thinking about your vision for the future as well. So jumping back from like, you know, your current, your why now, back to your why then, and then moving towards your why moving forward as well, thinking about your vision for the future. That's what gives me hope essentially as well. Sometimes yeah, being stuck in the present, you might have a lot of battles or a lot of challenges ahead, or a lot of adversity, or a lot of, you know, stresses, but thinking about you know, and reflecting on your past experiences can help you to sort of get out of your head, like, you know, get out of your current zone, and reflect on how far you've come, as well as thinking about the future will also help you to think about what's to come as well. So yeah, and that there'll be a good like enabler to help you to think about and provide you with a sense of hope during times of difficulty, especially, you know, with COVID and the pandemic and everything that's happening currently.
I think you've just made a fantastic point there, Kim, about look back on past success as part of that for motivation, because I think so many of us, you see, there's that I was going to say that old quote, but it mentions Instagram, so it can't be that old. But that old quote that don't compare your reality to someone else's highlights reel from Instagram. Like it's the successes and the journey is long and hard, and it can be really helpful to keep a track, keep a log of all the things that you have achieved as you go, so you can look back on that when you have one of those difficult moments. And look back on these worksheets, if you fill them in that Kim's provided, look back on them to help you, give you that sense of focus. Speaking of which, Kim, can we get you to stop screen sharing?
Oh, yep, sure, sorry, there you go.
That's great. I can see you properly now. Hello.
Yeah, sorry. There you go.
So we've had the next question come in from the audience. And so I'll just go straight into it. As someone who is very values and based and principles oriented, what advice would you give to people wanting to build a culture around that thinking? So moving on, I guess the question from that personal value to instilling that into your startup and the people and the team that you bring around you.
Yeah, that's a really good question as well. I think what I'm trying to do and what I love to do in moving forward with a lot of my ventures and startup ideas that I do is to really co-design it. And co-design essentially means collaborating in design. And it means, and what it involves is basically like sitting down with your staff members or your team and brainstorming together, like, you know, through the 3-step process that I provided, like, you know, what is the mission of the organization? What is the vision? What are the values? And what I realized with organizations like YGAP or other startups in the social impact and the entrepreneurship space is that what we're doing well is that we try to co-design as much as we can, and we should be trying to co-design as much as we can with our with our team, or whether it's with our supporters, or whether it's with people that we're trying to support and engage with as well. So I think co-designing is the way to go. Like thinking about what ideas, values, attitudes, beliefs does your team want to emulate and want to achieve in your various areas of work, which values resonates with your team the most, you and your team the most, and also thinking about which values does not resonate with your team, and then like narrowing down through that sort of process and then discussing it together. But essentially co-design, collaborating together, having an inclusive approach is the best way to go about doing things, rather than just you coming up with all the ideas and just writing it all down and saying, oh, here's what we're going to do, here's what I'm going to impose upon everyone and get you all to do. It's not about that. Like it's not the most effective way to maintain a good culture and a good team in the long term, because your team, because they've had no say, they've had no buy-in in terms of the process, they will not feel as likely to or as inclined to actually stick with those sort of values or ideas if you didn't involve them in the process as well. So that's why co-design collaboration is very important for upholding great organizational culture.
Good advice, Kim. Thanks. And that segues us into a related question we've got about working with a co-founder. So have you, is it your expertise that you'd be wanting to look for a co-founder that's got that same purpose and expertise? Or would you be looking for a different kind of perspective or lens?
So the question is, would you prefer to look for a co-founder who's very like-minded or diverse-minded, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I think it depends what you want to achieve as well. I would encourage you to think about like the values, if you to think about and reflect on the values, the attitudes, and the I don't know, the vision that you want to achieve, and then find someone who could challenge you on those ideas and values and beliefs as well, but who also hold similar sort of attitudes and similar like overlapping attitudes of you. So kind of like if you imagine two circles and they overlap, like a Venn diagram, I suppose. I think the most effective or the most kind of influential kind of impact can create when people from different sides can come together and create change, rather than having people who are just always the same and super like-minded as well. I think ensuring that, you know, people are values aligned is more important than having the same expertise or the same set of skills and the same set of experiences. That's why I always encourage that people to in terms of trying to recruit co-founders or trying to find other people on their team, is to try to have a diverse, inclusive and accessible team as possible as well, because we learn better when we're all, you know, different as well. There's also a lot of let me try to think of a quote. There's a lot of power and there's a lot of you know, things, magical things that can happen when there's these serendipitous collisions, serendipitous collaborations can occur. And it's about trying to foster opportunities to create for those opportunities and interactions and exchanges to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds great, and it reminds me as well of that exercise that, if anyone at home hasn't come across it before, of the kind of risk reward profile, and that can be a really great way of working out with a potential co-founder whether you truly are on the same page. Is working out what are you each willing to risk, and what, as Kim was talking about earlier, what's that recognition that's important to both of you, whatever it is for you personally. And if you both fill that in and look at what those equations look like, do they line up? Are you both pulling in the same direction? So really, yeah, some really useful and valuable insight there. I'm going to move on now because we've got questions. It's quite a significant number of questions coming through, Kim. So a question for you and your business and what you're building at present. What impact do you hope for your business to make, and what's a change that you would like to see occur over the next 5 years? What are you focused on?
Oh, wow. What a big question.
Yeah.
I think I'll start by answering like the activities which we're hoping to achieve. So, and then like I'll broaden it out towards our, you know, our mission and our vision, I suppose. But just acknowledging that even like yourselves, I'm still trying to figure it out. And like, you know, it's all a learning process in the end, and we haven't quite finalized everything yet. I would say even our website isn't the most up-to-date version as it is, because like, you know, being a social entrepreneur but also wearing a couple of hats in the social impact space as well, it can be a bit difficult trying to be across all things. And that's where, like, what I was mentioning, co-design is so important. But anyway, that's a bit of a digression. We're people of purpose. We're hoping to, as I said, we have 4 pillars: education, employment, entrepreneurship and events. And where we're hoping with all of this coming into play is to run a bit of a comprehensive social impact graduate program for young people and young professionals. And what that will involve is like an end-to-end support program with different stages for different people at different levels of along the change maker journey, whether you're super experienced or whether you're not as experienced, or whether you're still trying to figure it out, or you have some sort of experience already. That will be providing like masterclasses and like workshops and mentoring and like a bit of stipends as well to support you in your change maker journey. So that's a bit of our social impact graduate program. But I suppose in terms of the vision that we're trying to advocate for, and the world that we want to create, is essentially a world where everyone can pursue their purpose, irrespective of what it is, irrespective of whether it's in working in the not-for-profit or charity space, irrespective of whether it's in the entrepreneurship space. It's about creating a world where everyone can just be themselves and create and pursue their purpose and like be involved in meaningful work as well. So that's sort of our vision for the future. And impact, there's so many different ways to measure impact as well. There's like no like set figures that we had, like, you know, it's impacting like 1 million or a gazillion lives or something like that. We don't have like a standardized metric or like theory of change just yet. It's a still work in progress, but it's something we're hoping to create and work towards as well, in terms of just helping everyone pursue their purpose. That's essentially it in a very simple terms. Yeah.
Your purpose is to help others pursue their purpose. It's
exactly. Well, very well put, Anna. Love it.
Yeah. Very nice, very clear. I'm going to ask another follow-up question that we've had in about teams and values, and before I segue into how values and the market might intersect. So how do you find the right team members to get people on board with you who believe what you believe? I think this is a really interesting question that the questioner asks. Can you find them, or is it developed over time?
Oh, that's a good question. How do you find team members, and whether it happens organically, as in like, through random meetings, or whether it takes time? I think it involves a bit of both. I think there's no one set answer. But like, to find team members, I would encourage you to put yourself out there, to attend as many events as you can. I would say to network, but I don't really like the word networking as much because it seems a bit transactional. I like to go for a bit more of a personal approach, whether it's like, getting to know people as humans first and foremost, and then seeing if you have anything in common in terms of your interests, in terms of your values, in terms of your passions, and where you're hoping to achieve in life. So getting to know people as humans essentially as first, and then advocating for your your business or your startup a bit later on. But yeah, how do you go about doing that? Yeah, going to events, signing up on forums, and being involved in different like Facebook groups and stuff like that. Even content writing, content production in general, like writing content like through blog articles and stuff like that. And also just positioning yourself as a thought leader. That can also attract people to perceive you as being someone who's reputable and credible, and also helping you to put yourself out there. It's a win-win all around. There's a couple of strategies which you can implement, and generally these kind of relationships take over a period of time as well. I couldn't give you a quantitative figure for that, but like generally keeping it organic, seeing how it goes, and growing and glowing and learning and as you go along. There's no set answer for it, basically.
It's a little bit like finding a market. You put yourself out there, you're really clear about what you're doing, and you will attract people who are interested in that around you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I think as well, there's a sense of to Kim's point earlier about being that little bit open-minded and having that diversity. You're really, really passionate about the way that you want to build it. Sometimes that can come across as maybe a little prescriptive. So it's how can you help yourself to be really open to how your team might have a slightly different take, but still be just as passionately values driven as you are. So I think there's lots of opportunity there. We've had questions come in then about the sustainability question. I guess you build a business of based on purpose and social output and for the good of the world. But it's a business. You've got to get paid. You've got to find a way for it to pay the bills. And so how do you balance that when you're looking for a new market segment? They can often be very confusing. There's a lot of noise, and people can try and steer you down a path that is maybe a slightly different purpose. So how do you do that when you're looking for a new market, and there is the potential that could take you either into a new purpose or further away from your values, because that's where revenue is. How do you make those decisions, and how do you spot that that's what's happening?
Yeah, that's a good question, I think. I think I would always go back to my purpose in terms of, like, say if there's any new market opportunities, collaboration opportunities, partnership opportunities, funding, or different sorts of things. Sometimes there's all these different opportunities coming at you from left, right, and center, right? It can be a bit confusing trying to distinguish between these opportunities and which one aligns with your values, your mission, and your vision, and that sort of thing. But coming back to your organizational purpose is important at the end of the day. But also, don't be afraid to let it go as well. Let go of your organizational purpose if it doesn't align with what you want to do at that period of time, if that makes sense. Like if you see that if you yourself and your team are feeling and are more passionate about taking the organization in a different direction and transitioning it towards, for example, say if you're a poverty alleviation organization and you're interested in also transitioning towards sustainability and climates and other things as well, that's not to say you can't just transition towards that as well and shift your purpose accordingly as well. But say if you were still adamant and were still passionate about the current organizational purpose and the current mission and vision and values, then stick to it. But it's really up to it should be a team discussion as well. It shouldn't be just you making the whole decision on behalf of the organization yourself. Like, yes, maybe if you're a founder or if you're an entrepreneur, you feel like you have to make all these important decisions by yourself. But at the end of the day, you're working as part of a team, whether it's you and your team, or whether it's you and your co-founder, or even if you're a solo founder, a sole trader, you can still also consult other people, like whether they're mentors, advisors, or other people in the social impact or entrepreneurship ecosystem, to provide you with some guiding thoughts and guiding frameworks and guiding questions to think about as well. Basically, you're not alone in terms of having to determine all these big decisions and make them by yourself.
Yeah, there is definitely other support and people to be sounding board and to reflect out there in the world to seek them out. So maybe you could give us some examples, Kim, not to put you on the spot or anything, of some ways that purpose-driven founders, the networks that they can tap into, and perhaps some ideas of where initial funding and other kinds of support can come from for purpose-driven founders.
Yeah, good question. I think in terms of for purpose initiatives in general, like there's no one set space, because like for purpose is like an area, like is also known as social entrepreneurship or the impact space or the social impact space. There's a lot of terms that are used interchangeably for that. But in terms of trying to pursue opportunities in the space, I would encourage you to definitely check out accelerator programs. And they are basically business support programs for people with startups. So they are entrepreneurship support programs essentially. And there's quite a few good resources out there that you can look into that also have a for purpose lens to it as well, such as Social Change Central. They have a great set of resources. They're how do I describe it? A platform, like a one-stop shop for different opportunities and different jobs, different careers, even accelerator programs and other funding opportunities as well, for you to get involved in and to discover and to apply for your for-purpose business. And for other accelerator programs I can think of from the top of my head, such as YGAP, or if you're a young person, maybe Foundation for Young Australians, or there's also Ripple, which is an online careers platform for purpose changemakers and social entrepreneurs as well. And there's a whole gamut of resources out there, but from the top of my mind, those are some organizations I can think of. And there's also, like, if you're a high school student, there's also Future Minds Network as well, and they run like entrepreneurship programs for high school students and for those interested in social entrepreneurship. So there's quite a few out there. Yeah.
Thanks for letting me put you on the spot there, Kim. That's always a bit of a mean question off the top of your heads. And for anyone who might be a little bit more developed with their business, Social Traders is a great resource to go and have a look at. The fairly recently, maybe January last year, the Victorian government, for those who are based in Victoria, changed its policies to actively want to seek and have targets about procuring resources, services and goods from social companies. So the government is actively wanting to work with social enterprises, and Social Traders is there to help and facilitate that connection, because getting a government contract is a whole other different kind of investment and a different way of doing things from other types of investment contract landing.
And Anna, can I add on to that? For funding, there's also like LaunchVic as well for for startups in general, and for other funding opportunities. There's also like Impact Investing Australia for like impact investments. There's also Social Enterprise Finance Australia if you're based in Sydney. There's a whole bunch of initiatives out there. But if you want further information, feel free to reach out to me as well. I'm always happy to curate through a list and send them through to you.
That's a really generous offer, Kim. Thank you very much. Because as we've been talking about over the last 2 days in the festival, we are keen to support people and help you to connect with one another. So do reach out to Kim if you have more questions, and that's very generous of you, Kim, to provide that support. I'm going to wrap us up with one last question. I really like this one. Who is it that has inspired you most on your founder journey so far?
Oh, that is a very good question. Who has inspired me the most on my journey? Okay, I can think of there's just so many people that I can think of from the top of my mind. Most of them are female leaders, actually. So first and foremost, I will probably say, as from the entrepreneurship hat, the social entrepreneurship hat in particular, I would say Leila Jana. She is the founder of Samasource, which is like an online digital like school where they find and recruit a whole bunch of local people around local communities across like India and across the developing countries. And she she's passed away now, which is quite depressing, quite sad. She's driven so much, she's done so much amazing work around the world. But basically, she's someone who's inspired me in the social impact and entrepreneurship lens, because she is a social entrepreneur herself. She's a woman of color, and she's also done a lot of awesome work in terms of providing digital skills and online skills through entrepreneurship for people from local villages across like India and around developing countries around the world.
That is an inspiring story indeed, and it's always great to have someone in mind who you think, oh, how would they tackle this problem? All right, well, that brings us to the end of this session of the Future Founders Festival. That's all we have time for. Kim, thank you so much for your generosity and your value and your insights. And I would very much encourage everyone out there to fill in and have a go at the slides and the questions and the worksheets that Kim has put together. They can absolutely provide a really useful focusing point for your mind for now when you write them, but also over the next 6 months and a year as you check in with them. They can help you and your business stay on track and on values. So thanks very much to Kim for joining us, and thanks too much everyone for those questions that came in. We'll call an end to this session. We're going to have a small break, so there's a chance to go and get a cuppa and maybe a cake because it's Friday afternoon. And we will be back for our pitch competition. We are very excited about the final of this pitch competition sponsored by our friends at Practera. There are cash prizes. We have 3 finalists. I'm very excited to see what the feedback the judges is going to have for each of them. So each of those pitch competition finalists will be pitching their enterprise. And then they will get live judging feedback. So really valuable exercise to see what kind of questions the judges ask and what kind of feedback is given, but also come along and cheer on those excellent but somewhat nervous pitch competition finalists. And for those of you who have been in pitch competitions before, you will know what those nerves feel like when you're even on a virtual stage. So we're very much looking forward to that. And then later on this afternoon, I'll be back with Winitha Bonney for our closing keynote, which is just going to be a fantastic presentation. We are so excited to have Winitha with us. We'll see you later. Thank you.